if I missed it, but I did not see any note of Paul um, following up on the information he was kind of supposed to follow up with and provide us in our last meeting. Is this ringing a bell to any of you? He was gonna,
He didn't reach out to me at all, Andrea. I don't know. Did he reach out to
Okay.
Jerry at all?
No.
No. And so, I mean, he hasn't reached out to any of us. So I guess we can try to, on our next meeting, reach out to him again, Andrea.
Yes, I could ask
Can
him
you
about
just
this.
remind me, and maybe we can update the minutes to reflect it, because this will now have been the second time. But I'm like failing to remember what it was even about. Was it about the 5-year lease extension and trying to glean some, information from?
I think sorry, I think the way that it was left with what the selectman had said, what Beth had said, was that she I don't know if she had asked Paul. I'd have to look at the minutes again. But if she had asked Paul, I'm talking about Board of Selectmen minutes now. If she had asked Paul to ask you guys to check with other towns or other farmers in other towns that may be leasing and what sort of arrangements they had.
Okay.
And as we get into the
And
meeting
that might
tonight,
have confused Paul.
Okay. Thank you for that context, Jerry.
and we have that on the agenda tonight, Andrea, as number 3 or 4, I think it is, on lease of town farmland,
Yes.
which I did some research on. And I think there's, when we get into it, I'll talk to it about a little bit more.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So I guess the meeting, the minutes are good.
Okay. So do I make a motion? Anybody make a motion in favor of the minutes? I'll make a motion. Do I get a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Okay. So we're good. Okay.
All right, I'm going to bring Tim Austin in now. Okay, Tim, you should be unmuted.
I think we were fighting each other on the unmute.
I think we were.
Yeah. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, Tim.
Good evening, Tim.
Chris, how would you like to go forward with
So
this?
what I'd like you to do is go about a little about the jumping worm, how it all like started transpiring and how you picked up on it, and the information that you've seen, heard about, and so we get a little bit more educated about the jumping worm and everything, as well as anybody else that might have questions.
Okay.
Does that work with you, Tim?
Well, it works partly for me.
All right.
The person who has more experience around jumping worms, Kate Rosen, she hasn't been able to join us yet this evening, and she may still as the evening goes on. And let me dispose of this message that popped up on my screen. This, honestly, this came to our attention. And let me step back. Of course, I and Kate are also members of the Conservation Commission, and our charter has to do with recommending to the Board of Selectmen items that affect natural resources in the town. So we expand that a little bit and say, we're there to try to keep our eye on the natural resources in town, and in this case, try to educate public around those natural resources. And about a year ago, it was Betsy Yagla, who's a former assistant administrative officer for the town, who brought this to my attention and said that, it's something that we should look up, taking up. And so as the year developed, honestly, we don't know a tremendous amount. I looked into it enough to know that it's a growing problem. Kate Rosen has experience with it because she has jumping worms on her property. And she was very much interested in looking, and she knew of an expert, a woman named Anise Dobson, who she thought would be a good person to talk, to have a public information session and talk to the public on this. And so as we just developed the thought that we would put something together. At first, we thought we would do a program in the library, for instance, but I think we're lately are thinking more that it might be better to do a recorded session, a virtual recorded session, as we get, probably still, when we do this, probably still be cold weather. People may not want to go out. But more importantly, probably, is just to have it videotaped so that other people can take advantage besides those who can make it the one evening. And so again, as we started talking about it, the thought occurred to me that I wasn't sure that this was something that the Conservation Commission was best able to carry on long term. That if this is a problem, it will probably be here for a number of years. And perhaps, the thought occurred to me, honestly, that, perhaps there's an affinity with the Agricultural Commission. I didn't know, because I didn't know much about your charter and the things you're trying to do. But it felt like it might be something for us to at least explore, to jointly sponsor this information being shared within the town by the two of our commissions together initially.
So Tim, on the jumping worm, what species are they basically attacking? Is it vegetables, or are they flowers? Are they
well, I think
trees?
what I understand is it's soil damage.
Soil damage. Okay.
Yeah,
So
they make the soil.
They compose, they consume all the organic matter, all the leaf litter and fine materials. So they alter the nutrient composition and ultimately, soil health and structure and quality.
So in other words, they're affecting the pH in the soil, these worms. Is that what you're saying then? The pH, they're lowering the pH by, taking all the nutrients
Not
out.
exclusively the pH, like carbon and all the other nutrients that are in organic materials. Through their consumption, those materials aren't breaking down, right, and entering the soil profile. So, to my understanding, it's not exclusive to pH, but it alters all of the organic inputs into the soil. It's reducing them, which affects, the long-term chemical composition and texture and structure of soil.
Okay. Tim, do you have any types of pictures or anything like that of the types of what people need to be looking out for? I think that would be a big advantage for people to see what we're looking for. Besides breaking down the soil, I think you need to, as people get into the soil and they start seeing things, some people just say, "Oh, it's a regular worm," or whatever they are. Some
Yes.
some people look into that.
Chris, there's certainly, I can send you an article that I thought was most helpful, and whether there's pictures or not, and that's the specific article I'm thinking about. I'll have to go look again. But this is the type of information I would hope that Denise Dobson would be able to bring and convey on a session. And
Yeah.
she would have, and she does this, she goes around and tries to educate people. So she would have the full set of information, facts, the mitigations, hopefully there are mitigations. How to identify them? How do you tell that they're different than the regular earthworms that we have gotten used to, which apparently are also invasives in a way. They're not native to American soil. But and the pictures that you referenced that are most helpful for people. And again, and that's another reason to have it online so that information can stick and she can attach to that session. We can attach some reference material for people to come back to. So Chris, I will say we're this is a Conservation Commission. We're pretty uneducated ourselves, and we're looking forward to learning more and learning it all together. I did
think
not
it'd be-
mention that there's apparently the garden club in town is also had met, and they had a brief conversation about this, and it's something they've wanted to learn about and get more information on. So they may have a role to play here also.
I think maybe,
Tim.
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's all right. I just want to ask Tim, this is Jerry. Tim, what is the spelling of this person's name?
The spelling is Annise,
Oh, Anise.
Anise,
Yeah,
and Dobson, Dobson.
Dobson. Thank you.
And
And what's her credential? Is she with the Ag Station?
No, I believe Chris Sullivan of the land use office in town had sent me a note at some point, and she has a friend in Bethany who she said has expertise in this area. She heard us talking about it at one of the conservation meetings, and that particular person is at the Ag Station.
Okay, all right.
And
Thank
the
you.
article I'm going to send Chris is actually her article.
Okay,
She seems to have depths of expertise. She is also willing to come and talk in an information session. And I think it was Kate, a little bit up in the air, whether we're best to maybe have one person the first time or have both people. And maybe we do one session and then do a different type of session the next time with another viewpoint.
I think maybe then the next meeting we have, let's invite Anise Dobson in, and maybe she can put a presentation for us, just so we have it on record. So people can, if they want to go back to it, take a look at it, and we have some more information about it that's more by an expert than, for us sitting here and talking about it. She could really help people out if they see this, because I think they need to be aware of it. So
Yeah.
I think that would be something we'll put on our next meeting.
So
Tim may have said this, but if so, I missed it. But she is a postdoc at the Yale School of the Environment.
yeah,
All
just
right,
looked that
thank
up.
you.
Yes.
I did not say
She's a
that. but
postdoc,
thank
and
you.
her name is pronounced Annis,
Yanis,
just for future.
thank you.
You're
This is-
welcome.
And you'll pardon me, please, because I was a poor substitute for Kate, who had all the detail and
You're
has
doing a
the
great
contacts
job,
with
Tim.
Yanis. Thank you. Chris,
No, I appreciate your information. Well, Tim, why don't you go first and finish your thought?
well, I wanted to clarify with Chris because I'm just slightly confused. Chris, what we were proposing was to have a public information session.
Right.
Did you also want to have a separate session for the Agricultural Commission prior to that?
I think it would be beneficial to us, because if people come up to us and start asking us questions after the informal meeting, informational meeting, I think it helps us be a little more prepared for it, Tim.
Well, my hope was that you know, I know it's always tough to get everybody on a single night, but was that when we had this public information session, if we, you know, it's appealing to you to co-sponsor that with us, that some, if not all, of the members would attend that information session and have seen all the same information. Now, I know it's, you know, not impossible, almost impossible to get everybody. But, you know, if you have representation there, then perhaps to enable you to deal with those questions. I don't know that.
I'm good with that, Tim. If that's something, is that something that she would like to do in the near future? Is it something that you think we're
Yeah.
talking, January, February, March, you know what I mean?
I think the train of thought that we were starting to have, Kate was ready to do it, you know, in the next couple of weeks, and I,
Mhm.
you know, I kind of held the reins a little bit because I wanted to coordinate with you and your commission, and see if you wanted to do the co-sponsorship, because I think it's a, you know, I'll tell you what it is for us, the Conservation Commission. We just think it's good to do and participate in public events. It starts to get the name out in front of the public and say that, you know, here's something that's visible that we're trying to do. Because there's probably things we do that much of the public doesn't hear about and care about, but if we can get our name on these types of events, it's healthy and it helps with mission. So you may want to think about it in the same way. But so I wanted to get coordinated with you if you do want to participate. And there's a thought that it's maybe a little bit better to wait to the beginning, you know, on the cusp of spring at least, so that people are starting to think about their gardens and what they're going to do in the spring. And then if there are recommendations for by Annis that she can make to the public, then they're more ready to take it up. So I think, you know, when you talk to me, that's maybe the March timeframe.
So we meet the second second Tuesday or second week. No, it's the second Tuesday of the month. Is that correct, Jerry? Isn't that correct?
Yes, it's pretty much
Yeah.
the way it falls.
So the second Tuesday of March, I don't have a calendar in front of me. What would that be, Jerry?
Okay. So you know I have a calendar in front of me, right? Yeah, sure you do.
Oh, I just assumed you did. I'm sorry.
No,
I'm
I'm
sorry.
teasing you.
I know.
Come
I-
on,
my
Miss Sarah
Tuesday
gets
of
on.
March
I
is
have
the
to
13th.
fool with
It's
you.
the 13th. I
Yeah,
mean, maybe we can try to get something
it's the
scheduled for.
14th. It's March 14th.
Okay. So let's.
the
Oh, that's
second
Sunday. Excuse me, I
Tuesday.
misread it.
Okay. So maybe like we'll look down the line here. Maybe we can get an informal, like, you know, have something happen on the 14th of March, Tim, where we can get everyone together. That gives us 3 months. Everyone, we can start reaching out to everyone and see if we can put something together.
So did you want to, well,
Yeah, I think that we should co-sponsor something with you as an informal meeting, and that could be
Well-
part of our meeting.
I'm not,
But Chris,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Tim, let me just,
go ahead, Andre.
what Tim is requesting, if I'm understanding this, is a sponsored information session hosted at a public, at like the Woodbridge Library. Not like, let's invite all the members of the public to our regularly scheduled meeting for Annis to give a presentation. This would be a separate, in addition to our regular meeting. Is that what I'm understanding, Tim?
Yes, Andrea, except that the concept evolved since we first talked about it, and we would
Okay.
do this as a virtual meeting. But and the
Okay.
time, I can't say what the time is set yet, but I think your meetings are at 8 o'clock, ours are at 7:30. I think you do this a little bit earlier in the evening, to try to get people, whether that be 6:30 or 7, that has to be decided. But yes, Chris, it would be not a meeting of your particular commission. It would just be a date. Now, I am
Yeah.
sensitive that, as daylight, I imagine as daylight extends, that a number of you on the commission get busier with your own work. So, I think there's a pull maybe to bring it earlier where it's still a little colder and a little darker,
Yeah.
so that we don't interfere with your work. And so, I think we'd be sensitive to that, but that's why I wanted to have the conversation. And maybe what I'd ask for out of this session is that you identify a point person that Kate can work with, and they can sort of talk about dates and times and negotiate, but somebody that can take information back to all of you. And we don't have to get it settled tonight, but if you are interested in co-sponsoring, and then whatever, I think the avenues of communication are going to be through the town newspaper, the town newsletter, whatever, and then our networks, our individual networks that you have communities of people I'm sure you talk to, and we do, that we can just spread the word and say, hey, this is coming up, and probably spread it through the garden club as well. Although they may be interested in also being a co-sponsor of this, and I think that would be a good thing, because they have a lot of people who they probably pull in.
Well,
Tim, may I ask, or excuse me, Chris, may I ask Tim a question? Tim, I seem to remember that one of the items that the Conservation Commission a couple of years ago had asked for in their budget was funds to purchase some sort of special brush mats that would go at the head of trails for people to actually brush their feet on,
Yeah.
their shoes on when they came off the trails, because that is where a lot of these jumping worms originate is in the leaf litter in our forests.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I'm wondering, did that ever come to any fruition?
Well, thank you for bringing that up, because twice so far it's crossed my mind that I needed to mention that, and hadn't, and probably should have, as when Chris asked me how did this come about. One of the other threads, as you just heard, was that into the Conservation Commission budget, we had put a small amount of money for what we called a boot brush pilot. And at the time, we were thinking more about trails, and boot brushes are just small devices you wipe your boots on that have stiff bristles, and you've probably seen them someplace as you've gone around, but they're for controlling invasives, basically. Sometimes they're just to get the mud off your boots, but they're a technique to control invasives, and we understand that these are appropriate to try to get the little eggs by which jumping worms are spread. And so we had not yet, because the town trail committee hasn't quite evolved enough yet, and they're close to it, but they haven't. That when the jumping worms came up, the thought was, hey, this pilot we might be able to do in concert with an area that's sensitive to would put people's farmland or let's say the community gardens at jeopardy for jumping worms. Maybe that's where a good boot brush pilot could go. It's limited funds right now, and then if it's successful and we've picked the right boot brushes, we can try to fund that further. So the short answer to that question is it's budgeted but not implemented yet.
All
An
right.
opportunity to deploy
So-
those.
To my understanding, and do those boot brushes, are they intended specifically for jumping worms? Because it was to my understanding, though, jumping worms spread primarily from mulch and potted plants, like nursery stock
Mhm.
and organic materials purchased for, transplanting and et cetera.
So I'm going to say basically I don't know. I made a leap of faith that if you're walking through the woods and the jumping worms are trying in the leaf mulch, the leaf litter, and you're got mud and you got some of that litter on you, then it's probably a good thing to get it off before you go into a spot where you want to do growing. Now,
Definitely.
am I my science completely? I'm off there. Could be, but that's why we're going to talk to Ennis, excuse me, to find out the answer to those questions. And after that, then we'll start to think about, does it even make sense to consider the community gardens for the pilot? And honestly, that's I don't know if this commission has anything to do with the community gardens, but it's something we would maybe talk about mutually, where it makes sense to do it.
Well, we haven't talked at all about community gardens, Tim. And I thought, basically this was like an information session where we learn a little bit more about what's going on.
Okay.
And that's what I think tonight was basically about. It was an informal session.
Yep.
And I think as we go along here, like you said, towards March, we can have a session where it'll be an informal session for people to learn about this.
Yeah.
And they become more aware. I think that was a good idea. We give it a few months and let's see where we are. We'll keep Jerry in tune of what's going on, and we'll put it on, we'll say, hey, look, Tim, when do you think, we can get everyone together on your side, and we'll try to put together a date and a time, and we'll get it put together. Does
Yeah.
that work with you?
Yep. Yes, it does. There's not much that has to be done to put this together. It's just the notice for the the publicity. And we have to find someone to host the WebEx meeting that can entertain a good amount of people, such as Jerry's doing tonight for us. And so I take her as I'll let you get back to your business. I'm going to drop off, but if you could, before you adjourn tonight, just identify one person that maybe Kate can talk to, and they can be the conduit for information back to the commission over the next couple months.
I think probably, Jerry, I always hate to put things on you because you only got 100 things going on, but Jerry's the one who gets all the information out to us. And if she forwards the information to Jerry, Jerry forwards it to us, and it seems to work out pretty well. Jerry does a great job. I think the commission agrees with that. And I think that would really be beneficial to all of us. Are you good with that, Jerry?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Definitely.
Okay. So we'll
You
leave
know
it
me,
like that. Tim.
farmer at heart.
Okay. So Tim, that's where we're going to leave it as. Okay, but we'll discuss it by the end of the night. Okay.
Yep. Okay. And just one other quick question, just for my when does lengthening days start to get in the way of your doing something, a program in the evening? I guess is it. Do we have to avoid March, or still into March?
I think March is good, but once you start getting into April, and then after April, we don't meet for, I think it's 5 months, you guys.
Oh, is
Something
that right?
like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Until October.
yeah, till
Okay.
October, to the end of October.
So maybe so either February or March.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I think it'd be helpful to have the
Yeah.
program and then have you at least have one more session as a group, and
Okay.
just it's always good to debrief and things went and follow-ups. Okay, good. Well, thank you
you,
for giving me all this time. And if there's anything else for me, Jerry knows where to reach me.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Good night,
Thank
everybody.
you, Tim.
Thanks,
Okay.
Tim.
I know.
Okay. So moving right along,
Chris, let me just
Um,
note real quick. I put
yeah.
this in the chat, but I'll send it via email too, that there's
Yeah.
a fact sheet from the Ag Experiment Station.
Yeah.
It's pretty comprehensive, so anyone who wants a quick read on it can
Mhm.
have all the information. And then Dr. Dobson spoke about jumping worms at the March 2021 Connecticut NOFA Winter Conference, and we'll be speaking again this year. And I'll share, once we have that exact schedule, I'll share that as well.
Okay. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate that. Let's move on to where you can talk about, this is just what I'm saying. I don't think we need to vote on anything here. I just think that in February, for our meeting in February, we should just have a little discussion about it and then try to set something up by March. Steve is going to get us some information that you're going to forward to us, Steve? Is that what you're
Yeah.
going to do? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll put it in our. I'll respond to our packet with this
Okay.
this fact sheet from the Ag
Okay.
Experiment Station.
Okay.
Do we need a motion to co-sponsor?
I don't know. Do we, Jerry?
Well, it makes it quite official if you do.
Okay. So Christine, you're making a motion?
I'm motioning, yes,
Okay.
to co-sponsor this
I'll
event.
second that motion.
All right. All those in favor? Aye. So we're good.
Who seconded that motion?
Steve.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. The next thing on our agenda is to review the draft of Andrea's article. And Andrea?
I wouldn't go as far to call it an article. It's a paragraph. But Jerry, am I able to share my screen, or should I email it?
Yeah,
Or
you can share your screen. Just a moment.
I've just copied and pasted it into the
Okay.
agenda. Thank you, Jerry. And Leland, you'll have to accept my apologies. I can't remember the name of your farm. But so if you could provide that for me, I'll update paragraph accordingly.
Yeah, sure.
But are you
It's Forward Farms. I could type it.
forward?
Yeah.
Okay.
Andrea, the only thing is you spelled my last name wrong. It's S-E-N.
Oh, I'm sorry, Steve.
That's
Chris,
okay.
thank you.
That's okay.
And Steve, do you prefer Steve or Steven?
Both of them work. Either way, doesn't matter.
Okay. And Chris, are you okay with Chris rather than?
I'm fine with that. Yeah.
Okay.
My full name's Christian, but Chris is very fine.
Okay. So I could choose, so it's easier to read. So it's pretty much the same. I mean, it's very similar. I couldn't find the old version that I submitted, but I'd imagine this is quite similar. I'm happy to make it more different or add additional content. But as you can see, I don't know how to advise folks to contact us. Do we provide one of our email addresses? Do we create a Woodbridge Ag Commission at gmail.com? I don't even know if that's allowed.
Are we allowed to do something like that, Jerry?
I've never been asked that question.
I think that's a good.
I
that's a
do
good
know
point.
that there are when one of the commissions wants to, excuse me, one of the commissions wants to do a survey, they will create a, and as long, they'll create a separate email account. And if there's no funding required, where it has, says your commission doesn't have a budget. So if there's no funding required, then but I'm still not sure. I will certainly ask the question.
I think,
Okay.
I think she
Now-
needs to get that, Andrea, before we can.
Now, are you thinking of
Agreed.
having this put in the Woodbridge Town News?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so, Jerry, because
Yeah, definitely.
I think it, makes people aware of what's going on and, and all of a sudden if somebody will say, well, geez, I'd be interested. Who am I going to contact? And,
Mhm.
and I agree with Andrea, email or, or do you want them calling you at the front desk? That's the other question. You can contact us at, at the town hall and give a phone number and then they can leave a name and phone number when we get back to them. I mean, that's the only other alternative.
Or they can
really
email me.
Yeah. But do you want to use your email out there in the paper, Jerry?
Well, it's a town email, so it's published for people to contact me if they have any questions about anything with the town, or if they want to get in touch with the Board of Selectmen or with the first selectman. It comes through my email. And my
so-
phone number. So,
We could use that for now, but until we
Mhm.
check into, whether we could get a Gmail account that doesn't cost us anything
mhm.
and see, and if that comes out, then we can say later on, now our contact information has changed. This is where you need to contact us and we can, do that down the line.
Mhm.
Does everyone agree with that, or is everyone good with that, or any questions?
Because you do people, none of you really
Yeah.
want a bunch of emails coming to you
I-
from
I-
everyone in town.
I got too many.
Yeah, no, believe me.
I got too many now.
Mhm.
So let's put it at your email, Jerry, with a phone number,
Mhm.
and for now, so at least we have a contact, a point where to go to, and if something comes up, you can get back to us at either the next meeting, or if it's something
Mhm.
important, you can get back to us saying, look, we got Johnny Smith over here. We got a problem going on and it's starting to fester. And I think we need to get on top of it. We need to get it to our next meeting, or we need to do something.
Mhm.
So I think that would be that would be a good idea, just to get to a point. And then maybe we can find out, if we get our own email address. I think that would work out. Does anybody else want to comment or add to that?
That's good, Andrea.
That looks good. That looks
Mhm.
good. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm gonna make a motion for everyone. I'm gonna make a motion that we accept
Well,
this.
should I add that I'm so sorry to interrupt, Chris,
Yeah.
but should
No,
I
it's
add that
okay.
we meet at 8 p.m.?
Yeah.
Or does that level of specificity?
No, I think
Is
that's
that-
good. I think that's important. Yeah,
Okay.
so why don't we put that in there? We meet every second Tuesday of each month at 8 a.m. between
What?
October.
What? What time?
The commission meets regularly every second
How about
Tuesday
at 8 p.m.
at 8. Yeah.
Yeah, you said AM.
every
Oh, I
second
said AM. Okay. Okay.
Oh, geez, I didn't even catch that, Jerry. Good ears.
Jerry, you're still got it. So, let's see, every second each month, October. I think that's good. Does anybody have any follow-up to that? I'm going to make a motion that we accept it. Do I have a second? Anybody second it? Leland? All those in favor? Me?
Aye.
Aye. Yeah. We're good, Jerry.
Okay.
So we'll put that,
Okay, I'll stop sharing.
Yeah.
And I'll just go ahead and forward that to the Woodbridge Town News email
Yeah.
address. One question I had, and I know we already went through the motion,
Ah.
so maybe I can't ask.
Kate Rosen just popped up. Just a moment. Let me see what this is.
Okay.
If you just give me a
Um,
moment.
Commission members, would you prefer I include like an announcement of our current accomplishments? Like, should I, or is that
All right.
not
Her,
necessary? Like, should we?
okay,
Sorry,
just let
Jerry.
me say that Kate Rosen just emailed me. She had an emergency and she needed to attend to, and she will meet with Tim Austin.
okay. That's fine.
Thanks for the update.
So go ahead, Andrea. What were you saying?
I was just wondering if we wanted to announce like some of the accomplishments we've had, but specifically the update about, you know, market stands or, you know, being able to sell other farm products, or if we don't want to deal with that right now. Like, how are we spreading the word to people that of the progress we make in town?
You think, you know,
And do we have to?
well, I think you should. I think there's always good to say something. If you don't say anything, how is people going to know? You know, and I think that's always a good point to put out there of like, these are some of the things we've accomplished our first year of being in the agricultural thing. And every year we try to identify something that we try to move forward on and try to bring to the public's attention, which, you know, which we've been doing. And, you know, it's a public thing and the people have a right to know. I mean, that's the, you know, it's their land that, you know, we're using like public leasing land or, you know, doing stuff. And I think that's a good idea, Andrea. I mean, I don't see anything wrong with that. If this, you put this in the paper and then maybe next month we might want to add to it. You know what I'm saying? So every month we have something new instead of throwing everything all out there at once. Let's do it, you know, as we go along, saying,
Okay.
you know what I mean? We just, you know, bring something a little different each month or, you know, every other month we can bring something to the table. You good with that?
That's a great idea, Chris. I'm great
Okay.
with that. Yeah.
All righty.
Thank you.
Okay, so we approved that. Lease of town farmlands, other towns, states, Mr. Sorensen, that's me. Okay. So I did talk to a few of the other towns. I talked to some people. I talked to the people over in Orange, and they're on a 1-year lease like we are. If somebody wanted to do something for a long-term project or a long-term with the land, or do something very beneficial, they would have to go in front of the Board of Selectmen, sort of like what, you know, we've been talking about here for the town of Woodbridge. I was up at the conferences, New England Fruits and Vegetable Conferences up in Manchester, New Hampshire for a few days last weekend or last week. That's why I was not be able to be at the meetings. And I talked with some people up there of, you know, what are some of these other states, towns, municipalities, what are people doing? And a lot of the people I talked with, a lot of them owned a lot of their own land or that's what they try to do. But a few of the people do lease. But basically it was a case-to-case basis of what they were trying to grow and what they were trying to do. And for them to get long-term extensions was very difficult. And that's what I'm seeing to find. I did reach out to Guilford. Guilford was the same type of scenario. I did not reach out to Northford. I thought I should try Northford and Durham because I thought those would be good areas. I also was going to reach out upper into Hartford County, up into Glastonbury and up that way. I did not have time to do that, but I will do that and get back to everybody with a report on what I found out. But it was basically a case-to-case scenario of what I found with people trying to rent land from the municipality or a state or any of that type of nature. And the few people I did talk to did not have any long-term success at this particular time. I'm not saying that there isn't, but these are the people that I've talked with. I think this isn't like a quick fix. I think this is something we have to do a little bit more research on, and I have to do a little bit more on my own end to try to see where people are at. And not to say it won't happen, but I think that's what I have to do is to, so I'll know more about it, so I can bring it to the table and say, well, here's what we got going on, and I'll bring some examples, better examples out. So that's where I was with the long-term leases as of right now. I don't know if anybody else has gone and done anything on a long-term basis, but that's where, from what I've done, the little research that I did do, I think this isn't like a few phone calls here and there. It's more than that. And I've probably talked to maybe 8 or 9 people. So I would like to do some more just talking with people and investigating and having people get back to me. So that's what I found. I don't know if anybody else can add to, what they've found or what they've done or where they're at, but it's something that maybe, I can discuss a little more on like the next time we come around. So, because I do have some feelers out and see what people, when they get back to me, because a lot of people were busy. A lot of people had a lot of stuff going on. And I think right after the holidays, things sort of die down a little bit. They're not as crazy. So
Yeah, Chris, I also have some feelers out that I hope I'll have more info to share later. I had done some internet searching by ag commissions to see if anyone had talked about this specific thing and had it easily available to find via a web search of ag commissions in Connecticut, and I haven't found anything specific through that. But a lot of the organizations that landowners or land seekers use to find land have specific language about extended leases. So Land for Good has one, Farmland Connections, Yukon Extension publication provides a guide for Connecticut towns, institutions, and land trusts for leasing farmland, and they have language about this. So I think there are some things that we could maybe use in addition to what we've given to the town in the past to bolster some of this. I've reached out to my NRCS agents and haven't heard back from them. And Chris, I'm kind of hoping that maybe they'll give me some I don't know, places that I can go, either towns or specific farms that work on town leased land, because the NRCS has told me that I'm not eligible for their programs with, the land that I lease. I kind of thought, well, maybe they know someone who does. And so if I do find out anything from them, I had sent this in an email, and I think I just need to follow up probably in January when maybe they're back from, I don't know, holiday times or whatever. I'm sure this isn't a pressing issue for them, but I think they might have some information. So hopefully I'll bring that to our next meeting if I hear back.
I think that's good, Christina, because I'm looking at the language and how they do some of these contracts. I think that's the real important issue of how they're wording everything and how they put it into if someone gets a long-term extension, how are they doing that and how is it happening? And I think that's really important. I think that's great that you've gone on that avenue and seen where we're trying to, because I think it'd be beneficial to the town as well as us, especially what we're looking to do. That's a beneficial to everyone there. That was a win-win situation, but we got to figure how we can make it happen. So it's going to take us a little time, just like, everything. But I think, if we keep pursuing, I think we'll find a way. So
Yep.
that's the way I look at it. Patience. You always got to have a little patience. Does anybody else have anything else to say or offer on that? So I think we'll just look into it, and whatever we see we can bring it up at the next meeting of what we hear, or if we don't hear anything, but we can still keep out trying to share information. So we're down to in the agenda number 5. There was a review with Mr. Burns, taxation of personal property state statute.
Unfortunately, the email address I had for him
Yeah.
evidently was, I guess there was an error in it somewhere.
Okay.
So I will still try to reach him.
Okay. So we'll move forward from there. And then we talked about plans for a tour of the leased properties, which I think is a good idea. I think who's our liaison now, Jerry, for our Ag Commission meetings?
It's still Mr.
Oh.
Karakus.
It's still Paul. I think maybe at the next meeting, what we could do is try to set something up for maybe April or May, and just, we could take a time where he could come and just take a walk down at some of the property, like, what I'm doing down at Litchfield Turnpike or up at Christina's, just to go there, and so he can get an idea of what we're trying to talk about. And he can relay that to, we should invite the other selectmen, but, they're busy people, but at least he could relay the information back to what we're trying to do, and share the information back, and maybe take some pictures and stuff of some of the properties and how they benefit, some of the farmers, as well as they benefit the town, as well as if we're trying to do something for them. And so maybe we could reach out to him, Jerry, and see, we could ask him, that down the line, I think in another month or two, just say, could we, try to get together on just for a few hours of his time, and we could meet with him. Is that Andrea? Go ahead.
Yeah, can I suggest we pick a date and
You want to pick a
time?
date now? Okay.
And we don't have to invite him now, but I think the sooner, schedules only fill. So the
Yeah.
sooner we save the date, the more likely we'll be in, securing his attendance. I also do suggest, though he could report back to the board, but I do suggest that we invite all members of the board.
Yeah.
I agree with you 100% there. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I've already put it down.
I'm thinking maybe, which might be a good day, and it correlates with what we're trying to do. But if we could do like April 22nd, that's Earth Day, and maybe he could come in the morning and take a look at what's going on. I just thought, something like that. I was just going through my phone here, and I thought, that maybe we could do something that morning, and just maybe he could get back, and if, say we could do something at 9:00 in the morning, and, try to have it, wrap it up within, an hour or two of just going through some of the properties, drive through, see what's going on. And then he can develop some questions and what's going on, or some of the other selectmen might want to have questions, but we could show them, like, they could go to Christina's, and Christina could say, this is what I was trying to do on X, Y, or Z, but it didn't work for us because we didn't have, long-term lease agreements, and we need to do something about this. And you could show them how, the leaves aren't going to be out that much or anything else, but just say how it keeps on encroaching on the property and moving on. And you sort of got to start them like, how it starts. And I think that would be a really good thing. Down on Litchfield Turnpike, I had the same type of situation. You got a lot of stuff encroaching from the stone walls and coming into the property real heavy. And also, they'll see things. And some of these people probably have never really walked the properties or even been around the properties. They might have a quick drive by, but they probably don't know much about the properties. Even like, I talked to Keith Arnold, and I talked with him quite a bit this year. He chopped all the corn I had this year because it was so dry. He didn't get a lot of cuttings for hay, and he was looking for feed. So he came up and cut. And, he had a lot to say about, how he's cutting across the street and every time. But he says, every time he tries to make an investment and do stuff, he keeps losing land instead of, getting stuff. And those are just things that are happening. And I think the selectmen need to know a little bit more about what's going on and how they need to just at least communicate with the people that are working the land instead of making decisions of, going about whatever they're doing. So I think that would be a helpful for all of us.
If Keith is willing, I mean, maybe they and we should tour his land as well.
Yeah.
Because I know they've taken land out of production, to accommodate other public interests.
Right.
And that's been a bit of a hardship. So, I will say I encourage you all, if that works for your schedules, to proceed with that proposed date. I will be away for those 3 weeks in Italy in April, so I won't be here. I'll be out of the country. But you can lead this in my absence. I have full faith in your abilities to convey.
Okay.
Now,
Well,
would you like me to reach out to the lessees and tell them about this date and make sure it's all right with them?
I
that,
agree. Yes.
It's Earth Day is the 22nd of April.
Yeah.
That is, I don't know that I have necessarily any firm plans to be out of town. It is the spring break week for Beecher Road School.
Not the
And
22nd.
I think that's
No, it's earlier. No. Beecher, I know because I'm on the buses, believe me.
Beecher overlaps with Easter, so their spring break is actually
8th through the 15th this year. And I know that for a fact. And then the following week is free. I know that because I got the calendar right here in front of me. That's the only reason I brought it up.
Okay. Oh, and then if that's the case, that's great. We've just been kind of trying to think about what's happening during the kids' spring break in April, which is great for farm stuff. But okay, I think that is not an issue then.
Let's just shoot it out there, and then if we have things, we can always change dates. That we're talking January, February, March. We're talking 4 months. We're talking long ways ahead. We can always change things. Andrea made a good suggestion. At least we put a date out there. If it doesn't work, we'll shoot some more dates.
Yeah, okay. I like that.
All right. Can I get someone to make a motion to accept that date? Is there any?
I can motion to accept that.
Okay. Can we get a second?
A second.
Yeah. All those in favor? Aye. Okay. Well, what we got? Hold on here. I'm getting here. So that was, we set a date, plans at least turn, and items for the next meeting, which would be January 10th, which is not that far away. I think we always have minutes of the previous meeting. your
If
direct.
I had a,
Yep, go ahead, Andrea.
it's cutting it close, but Steve, I saw you on the call, the webinar that DOAG hosted for this climate smart farming, climate smart grant that they're sponsoring. Applications are due January 18th, and I don't know if we want to make ourselves available to farmers, interested in learning more about that, if we wanted to talk about that at all, if any of you were interested and didn't really know. I mean, they're not issuing small grants, they're issuing no less than $100,000, but they'll be granting lump sums to conservation organizations who will then be managing their own grant programs. So there'll be opportunities for Woodbridge farmers to apply for these funds through other avenues. I'm not sure if we want to talk about that or play any role in educating the public or being a resource for them if there's interest. So I'm just throwing that out there. I don't really have an opinion, but yeah. Are you all familiar with that?
Isn't
I mean, I think, Andrea, it's a good point about just, how we spread information and what information we want to spread, because there's a number of grants available through the State Department of Ag. There's grants available through the NRCS. With the Department of Ag, there's a few grants due in January, beyond just the Climate Smart Ag grant. So, if we're putting out, it might be a little late given the letter to go into the town news, but it's something that we could think about including these opportunities in the town news for farmers if we're doing something every few months. And these things generally run on a schedule. I mean, the Department of Ag recently revamped their scheduling, so things are sort of newly lumped in January. For those of us applying for multiple things, it makes things a little stressful, but to have them all at once. But we could be a resource for that. I don't think we need to, they have their own info sessions, but we could at least point people to these dates and the websites in an article.
just like I said, Andrea, before, every month we should put something a little different in our synopsis out in the public, just a little information thing, just like Steve mentioned here, every month is something different coming at you.
Or it's
So
monthly or maybe
probably
quarterly for a publication, just so we're not putting something on Andrea, who's been doing the writing for now. It's saying it needs to be monthly. But if we think about
Thank you.
some kind of quarterly notice, or if there's something more specific that needs to be in more frequently, so we could think about a communications scheduling at an upcoming meeting, or I'm happy to think about working on that offline.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks.
And then I also will get back to you about some of the any information we get on leased owned properties, whether they're town or state leased. Just some of the formats of what's going on with them and how we could learn a little bit more. And I'll look into that a little bit more. I know Christina's got some feelers out there, so which we can, move forward on anything we pick up on, or any information we pick up on. And then maybe, since he wasn't here tonight, but Mr. Burns, hopefully, Jerry, we'll get the right email and maybe we can get him to, he wanted to talk and share some information with us, and we can get back to him and let him make an opportunity for him to come back and have some.
Yes, Andrea sent me the email, so.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if that's the same one you used, Jerry, but that's the one I have on file.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then anything else that anybody can, think of down the line here, as things come up, we can, talk to Jerry. Jerry's always there, and we can add to anything that we think we need to add on to at any time. Does anybody else have anything else they'd like to say? All right, well, let's make a meeting to adjourn. I make a motion, we make, to adjourn the meeting. Do I have a second? Okay,
Second.
all those in favor, aye.
Bye.
Good night, everyone. We'll see you, next
Merry
month.
Christmas, happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays. Thank you for everything. Thank you all for joining
Thank
tonight.
you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night, Jerry. Thank
care.
you.
Good night.
Bye.
Thanks, Jerry.